Hi, I'm Christine Brookins, and this is Connecting Our Community. Today, I have the pleasure of several friends joining me to really discuss community and what it means to get involved. So while you all serve in different roles, I'll start at the far end. Jim Protin, husband, dad, grandfather, but you're also entrepreneur, podcaster, author.
Yeah.
So many things, so many roles, right?
I'm just old. I have a lot of time on my hands.
Seasoned.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. He's old.
Jennifer DiLucia, otherwise known as Jenny D. So wife, mom. We've talked about being a football mom, but you two are a podcaster, MC. You're just out there.
Love it.
With your
Pink.
your pink, yeah, your signature color. And Eric Chandler, I don't even know, you have so many titles, so many roles. We'll start, your husband, father, grandfather.
New grandfather.
Yeah.
New grandfather.
Yeah.
Precious baby.
But
Yes.
most people know you as Coach Eric
Yes.
because of coaching both football and life.
Yep.
So many roles, and we'll dive in a little bit, but I'm just so appreciative that all of you were willing to join me and have this conversation about how we get engaged in the community and how that engagement really can serve as a resource to other people.
Thanks for thinking.
Yes,
Thanks
thank you for
having
having
us.
us.
Appreciate it. So Eric, I'll start with you and your coaching. It's so broad. You have a coaching and consulting business, but when you think of the coaching that you do, kind of that life coaching, how do you see that as impacting the community? What are you doing in that role that carries forward into the community?
I think it's simply helping people pull out the best in them, right? There's greatness inside of all of us. And it's recognizing it, identifying it, allowing them to realize, yes, I am great. I have ability, I have skills, I have talents. And working with them to bring them to the surface and actually just start operating in their strengths versus focusing on their weaknesses. And through that process, they'll know that, oh, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to go after. And then they begin to flourish and they go from striving, I call it, to thriving.
I think it's so true that you've got to really find your niche and what you're good at, because we all have something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do.
We've talked about, we're all good at talking.
That's true.
Yeah, you should earn
That's
us more
true.
than that.
Yeah.
And Jenny, your podcast, you really, when you're talking, you've talked to people from all walks of life, but you really have been providing a lot of resources around women's health, men's health, just having people tell their authentic stories. When you do that, what's that reach for you, and how do you see that as impacting the community?
Well, when I first started my podcast, I thought, I knew that there was a need to have this platform for people to share stories, because, especially during COVID, everybody was so isolated. I felt like humanity just wasn't together. We were all kind of like, oh, get away, stay away. So I thought, we got to bring people together. And the whole thing with health is I don't feel like we are getting enough awareness out there. We're not talking, I almost feel like, with being a podcaster, and you can even chime in on this, it's right here. Like, everybody's walking around with this. So you can get your information so much easier than you are getting it from TV. And if I can bring awareness and information, education for people in the community to know, get checked. Here's somebody that had addiction, and look at him now, he's thriving. All the good that, all the youth are doing. Get on this platform and show people that you can do anything you want. You just have to have that, confidence that it's okay. You're going to make mistakes, but to just be on a podcast and to talk and share about your story, I feel so privileged to have people on, because it takes a lot. And as James knows,
It's a heavy lift.
it does. And you know what? For people to share that, because there could be one person out there that needed to hear that conversation.
That's so true. I mean, in today's world of social media and YouTube and all of this, we want the likes and the views. But really, when it comes down to sharing the message, if it gets that one person who needs to hear it.
Well, I agree, and I know that Jenny's the same way I am. If you look at that show that you post on YouTube, right? And a month later, there's only one view. If it's that person, that's a successful show. It could be more successful than that one that gets 1,000 views.
True.
It depends on the impact that you have if you reach that person.
Jim, let's dive in a little bit on what you have been doing with your podcast, because you've spoken with all types of people, but I think the pillars that you stand behind, the live, love, learn, pray, and inspire.
Mm-hmm.
I love when I'm watching what you do, because you do it on all platforms, but on YouTube that I'm able to watch, and where that really comes through. And somewhere along the line, everybody you're talking to has a message. So tell us a little bit about the pillars and how that factors into who you're talking to.
Well, that's very simple, because really those 5 pillars factor into literally everything that I do. First thing in the morning, that's my thought process. It's all works part of it through journaling and things like that. But I think that started a very long time ago with my father, who kind of taught me those things. But it wasn't until I tried to take control of my own life and obviously crashed and burned into a brick wall, and everything just kind of collapsed. And then I started to build them on my own, right? So I took that foundation that he laid and where my life was at that time and where it's been since, and just building them. And they do tweak every once in a while, but the core message is the same. And I think one of the reasons why we focused on people, like we wanted to feature businesses, right? So we had Jenny D on the podcast, and we wanted to feature Jenny's podcast. We wanted to help her grow, but we also wanted to know about her. We wanted to know about Eric, about you. So we talk about what the person does, about their business, everything, but why does that person do it? What is their motivation? What's their inspiration, right? So that's where it all comes from. And I was sitting one day watching the television news, which I don't do anymore, but they were celebrating one celebrity or another, and honestly at this point I don't even remember who it was, about doing this, right? And without getting into too much detail, I said, I know who so-and-so in Canonsburg that does that same thing. Mm-hmm. They're not being celebrated because they're not famous, right? So why not tell their story? Somebody needs to share their story. And so happened to run into, shout out to Nick Allen, my producer, director, editor, does everything. The podcast is really Nick. I show up and do this. I talk to people. I have no talent whatsoever.
He's good at that too.
But Nick,
he's great at it.
But Nick was 19 years old when we started this. He's just turned 23. And he wanted to try it. So I looked and I found 10 of my friends that I knew, first of all, would say yes, so we could do a test, and that would be an interesting conversation.
Okay.
And those 10 went very well, and that turned into 20. And ultimately, we took a break at 135, and we'll be relaunching next month. So, but we turned out, we got a lot of nonprofits, not by intention, but people started, like such as yourself, started seeing it, and that's how I met you, through a mutual friend, and say, hey, I got somebody that be great on your podcast, and you and I have done that with each other.
Share each other's.
So, and I think it's a platform that's accessible to everybody, like Jenny said, and it's free. You don't have the constraints that the network televisions do, or we can be a little bit more liberal with how we're talking and how the conversation's going. And I think it's more real conversation than an interview, right?
Agreed.
I don't, when I was on her show, she didn't interview me. We had a conversation, and somebody filmed it, right? So I think that's the thing that I like most about podcasts. They're not news interviews.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
And that's where you get impact.
It's that authenticity.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that that's the awesome part of having this conversation today. What you said, getting to know people, I that's really what it's behind it. We were just talking about, we're all formed of our experiences. Mm-hmm. And if you never share that, how do you know somebody else's perspective?
Right.
And you've all really taken an active role in listening to people, learning, and then sharing with a broader audience, right? And I'm gonna pivot a little bit because Jim, you mentioned Canonsburg, so you can't mention Canonsburg without hearing Eric Chandler's name.
I want to know if
there's-
he's the one behind the ducks.
Well, listen, I don't know anything.
There's more today. Did you know that?
I don't know anything about the Ducks. I know
They're
just,
bigger
I don't
today.
know
They
anything
just
about
showed up.
Ducks.
The
I
first
don't know. I have
ones
an
were little.
I have an idea, but I don't know who did that. I don't know.
So they're back today. Bigger ducks than the
Where?
first.
Where are they?
All over
Robots have
town?
been all over Canonsburg.
I didn't
They've
see
showed
that.
up over businesses, outside businesses.
Somebody's
Like-
doing it overnight
like
through
the
the night.
little
The
ones?
little
little,
rubber duck.
little rubber duckies.
They're about this big today.
Oh, okay.
They're bigger.
Getting bigger.
Well, they had that real big duck downtown.
But this is
Yeah.
really cool because they're literally lined up on Pike Street, on fences, on buildings,
Yeah.
businesses.
And Eric doesn't know.
I don't know. I
He
don't,
claims he doesn't, but I don't know that there's
We'll get out of
anything in Canonsburg that you don't know. I mean, okay,
Come on,
so
man.
He has to keep it under hush hush.
I don't know.
it's not
I don't
complicated.
know.
He's looking
I don't
straight
know.
into the camera to say, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just looking at my list of all the roles. We talked about everybody has different roles, but you literally serve a role for Canonsburg. You've been elected to office, so enough people out there know, hey, Eric's doing good stuff.
Yes.
But how do you use that influence, and how do you feel like this community engagement when you are out there representing Canonsburg, you are serving the people of Canonsburg, but you're also taking in what is necessary for them. So how does that impact you, and I guess then how you impact the community?
Well, I think the important word is impact, right? When I first, actually before I got on council, grew up in Canonsburg, and there were empty storefronts, and it was like, man, and when I look back at pictures of Canonsburg and what it was a thriving community. I mean, you had the butcher, you had a malt shop, you had a theater. I mean, you had all these different smaller businesses, but it was thriving in Canonsburg. And then all of a sudden it shuts down, and I'm living here, and it's like, well, how can I make an impact in the community? Just what can I do? And it was getting involved on council. Like, I'm not a politician, and I wasn't even interested in running
Right.
until I was approached about the idea of, a position opened up in Canonsburg, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, okay. We would go to the meetings, and the meetings were really gentlemen fighting over this guy didn't vote for this guy, and that guy didn't vote for that guy, or their thing, and I'm just like, I don't want any parts of it. No, I'm good. But Canonsburg still looked the way it did. So I'm like, okay, well, if I run for council, then maybe I can help impact Canonsburg and spur something on. And that's always, anything I'm involved in, that's how can I make an impact, a positive impact, by being my authentic self in these different situations. And that's really what it was. It was like, what can we do with Canonsburg to bring Canonsburg back from where it used to be, right? This resurgence of small businesses, of people walkability, of, even we have the coaching football, right? We have the football games on Friday nights. It's all of that. And I've been impacted because when I ask people the question, what do you want to see Canonsburg? And people are like, some of those same things. I want to see small businesses. I want to be able to, go down and get an ice cream sandwich, or go down to the local restaurant and, grab something to eat and then walk home. So for me, that was, okay, well, let's make it happen, because I live in Canonsburg and I love to walk the streets of Canonsburg. So that was really the impact that I wanted to make, and collectively, it wasn't just me, but collectively with council members, we were able to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I love doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really think it is about the impact, and that's why we're having this conversation, because each one of you is making such an impact in the people with whom you interact, but also the community as a whole, right? That, Jenny, you have your Menopause Mondays, and I just love that you do that, because women aren't talking about their health, and then they think they're the only one. And also, you're putting it out there, so hey, men, this is real for us now.
You better listen up.
Mhm.
And I think that these are things that that's an impact that you're making. And I know you just spoke with a doctor about prostate cancers. We're talking men's health also. You're making an impact.
My doctor.
Right.
There we go. See?
Yeah, and it's such a, we live in I love Pittsburgh because I feel like we're all related in some way,
Right.
or we all know somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah.
And I started the Menopause Monday in March before Oprah. Okay, did you hear that, Oprah? Okay, I need the credit. And because I was crying for help in January, I thought I couldn't get out of bed. I was depressed. I was gaining weight. I was like moody. I didn't want to be around anybody. I thought I can't do this. This is my profession or my passion is to talk to people, and I just couldn't get out of bed. And I thought, the doctors, anxiety medicine. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Just put a Band-Aid on it. And I thought there's something wrong. So when I finally dug deep into it and I started talking to a menopause specialist and really doing research, I thought, you know what? Because a lot of times women, our mothers, grandmothers, they didn't talk about it. They did not.
Right.
Because they thought when you say the word menopause, you're old. And it's what it starts with. It starts with a lot of women. It can start in your 30s and 40s, and you don't even know that your hormonal changes and your estrogen has been lacking. Because I realize estrogen is such a big part of women's health, with our brain health, our heart health,
Yep.
Everything, our bones. When somebody asked me, "Do you know any men that have osteoporosis?" and I was like, "No," and they're like, "Well, hello," right there. So the Menopause Mondays, when I started that in March, I was really keeping up with it. In the summer, I only did it maybe once a month, and people were like, "Where's Menopause Mondays?" So I know there's a need for it. So I'm going to keep it going. I've got so many people lined up for this, but I also have my Wednesday episodes, which are just general. We're talking about prostate cancer. We're talking about awareness. Breast cancer is going to be a big one for October for me. But so I want to. I wish I could do a podcast every day because there's so much to talk about, right? And I've had these gentlemen here on my show and what they're doing, and I just commend Eric because Canonsburg is thriving and it's so much fun, and I love the Hallmark Christmas one. I love going down there and what he's been through, and he's such a great with the community. I mean, he is one of those people that you want to be friends with him. Because I wanted to mention this. I'm sorry, I'm not taking it. This is a Jenny D show now.
Just go along. Just go along. That's all right.
Can you put that on the No, but the inspirational Facebook messages that he
Yes.
puts out there. I look forward to those.
I appreciate it.
I look forward to those. So,
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that too. And Eric does his Thursday posts.
Transformational.
Transformational Thursdays.
Thursdays.
Coming out today.
And I think that the whole concept, like you mentioned, anxiety, and so many people want to just medicate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it really is, no, I need to hear that positive thing. I need to see that
100%.
positive post. I need to know there are other people out there that are going through these things. And they are, sometimes barely, but keeping their heads above water. And being that person or that entity that somebody knows, hey, there's
That's so
somebody
important.
out there. And I think also through all the things that all of you do, connecting those resources, right? You don't have to be the expert if you're connected to the expert. And I do think, Jim, you've done an awful lot of that. And I'm curious, and maybe this will apply to all of you, but I'll start with Jim. So you've spoken with a lot of people on a lot of different subjects. If you had to pick one that really sticks out to you, that was something that was impactful to you, what would that be?
Wow, there's been so much. I think, obviously, recently, it's the cancer story, right? First of May this year, I would have told you I'm the healthiest 65-year-old man in America. And I would challenge any 65-year-old to prove me wrong, right? By the end of May, I had cancer. I had no symptoms. I felt great. I said to Dr. Epps, my doctor, I said, how's this possible? I feel better than I have in years. I mean, I really, literally feel good. And that's the thing, Now, I was blessed because of Dr. Epps, because we had set a pattern in the baseline. So we got it very early. I had the surgery, got it out of there. Everything came back good. I'm 100% cancer-free right now. But that was my summer, right? I spent the entire month of July. It didn't venture any further than my deck, and I'm in it. So it was an experience that, you know, we're all day to day. I mean, you know, anytime, anywhere, something can happen. You don't know what the day's going to bring. You know, so why not just be a good person? Why not be kind to people? You know, and I always say every morning, I share love, grace, patience, compassion, forgiveness, dignity, respect, empathy, kindness, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness, joy, gratitude, and peace. 15 things that I make sure that I try to share with everybody every day, right? And I know it seems like a lot, but you know, when you think about, until you are authentic with yourself and you love yourself and have compassion and empathy for yourself, you can't love anybody else. So when because there was a long time I didn't like myself at all. I didn't like who I was. And I wasn't who I thought I should be. But now I say I love everybody. I tell you guys when I see you, I love you every single time. And I do that with everybody, and I mean it. You know, and not in the sense of, you know, there's a lot of different kind of compartments in that word, right? But I want everybody to know that they are welcome with me. They are safe with me. If you're having a problem, it's just like the blog. And I appreciate you mentioning that, but I can't tell you how many messages I get from people on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, whatever, you know, even text people that know me that say, thank you for saying that. I really needed to hear it. And I tell people all the time, if you need to talk, you need to reach out. That's why I put my cell phone number out there, right? I mean, it's my personal cell phone, but I use one number for everything. If somebody needs to talk, needs to get a hold of me, just call me, you know, and because I think there are times you just need to have somebody to talk to, you know, so that's why I do what I do. I just, to try to make a difference, try to positively impact people's lives through the gifts that God gave me to share. He didn't give them to me to keep, right? I had a teacher and a coach in high school that told me every time he saw me, I talked too much. And I said, I saw him after I retired, you know, later, and I said, you realize that if I had listened to you in high school, I'd be unemployed right now. Because that's what I do for a living. So, but you use the gifts God gave you to make a difference and have that positive impact, as Eric said.
And just to piggyback off of that, I think that one reason why we're sitting here is because we're okay with being who we are. Right,
being vulnerable
in
yes.
flaws,
Absolutely.
in whatever, we're okay. We've come to that place of I'm Eric Chandler. This is who I am. Love me, hate me, whatever it is, but this is what you get. And I'm the same guy that I'm here. I'm the same guy as Coach Chandler, as Councilman Eric, or whatever board I'm on. This is what you get.
Right.
And I think through that process is we take off this mask of, you know, I call it imposter syndrome, right? We believe that we have to be someone else, when in fact, no, the only person that we have to be is us.
Right.
And the only person that we can control is us.
Right.
So why not tell our story? Why not ask for help? Why not be vulnerable enough that says, hey man, I'm struggling, and I don't have all the answers, but here's what I've done, and here's how I've gone through the process, or here's what I'm searching for, and I'm connecting with doctors, or
Yes.
you know, this is what I've learned from my father, and this, you know, all those things put together makes us who we are. Being, again, how can we impact our community?
Yes.
I think that's it. I mean, being our authentic selves is the best thing that we can do. That's what we're here to do. Being comfortable with it, being vulnerable when it takes it. And I think, you know, you talk about your impact, what impacted you is the cancer story, but if you didn't have the platform and the reach that you did,
Sure.
you might not have been connected with the right person at the right time.
100%. I think that has so much to do with it. I mean, you know, when you think about, there's a lot of negativity around social media these days because the most visible, I guess, person in this country is using it. He's weaponized it, and he's using it to tear people down and degrade people and all those things, and to really cause problems. But the blessing of social media. Okay, so I read somewhere that even the most introverted person you could possibly imagine knows 100 people. Okay,
So true.
so right here, the four of us know 400 people. So we can right now easily impact 400 lives. Think about this. Those 400 people each can impact 100 lives. Think about how easily the four of us could impact millions of people.
Yes.
Literally millions of people
That's
just
right.
from social media.
The shampoo commercial from back in the day.
Yeah.
But I'm picturing that and the impact.
Right.
Everyone can make an impact.
Yes, everybody can do something, and everybody should try. Even if it's a little thing, there's no act of kindness that is too small. You know, and it's so easy. It's free. I mean, it doesn't take any effort. You know, and it's just, and maybe I'm getting old. Who knows? But I see things so differently. I want everybody to win. I'm everybody's cheerleader. I want everybody to succeed. You know, when I heard about this really pretty cool young woman that wants going to do a podcast, I wasn't threatened by her. I reached out to her to see how I could help her.
I was like, who's that?
You know, I mean, it's like, and you know, Eric McKenna, the guys that are, you know, these guys that are all doing podcasts. We have a really vibrant podcast community here in Pittsburgh. It's very underrated, and you know, we've all been on each other's shows. We've all
friends.
supported
Yes.
each other. We're friendly and that's the thing that I like is because if Jenny does well with her show, I'm going to do well. You're going to do well.
Right.
Eric McKenna's going to do well. Everybody's going to succeed because a rising tide raises all ships, right? So I just think
What is
it's a
that?
really
Collaborate, not competition.
right. Yeah, collaboration over competition.
Yeah, and that's what makes the connection. That's what makes authenticity so cool. Is because I know who I am, you know who you are,
Right.
so I'm not in competition with you, right? How can we collaborate? How can we create this better community for everybody?
Right.
Love everybody, right?
Right.
Everybody has their own story, so my story is not the same as yours or Jenny
Yes.
D's, but we all have a specific story that people need to hear.
We have a shared humanity.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what it all comes down to. You know, we humans, there are 7.5 billion of us that are all in this together. We all look different, we all think different, talk different, act different, but we're all the same. So,
That's true.
I mean, that's our survival, this planet's survival is up to us, each and every one of us. And that might sound dramatic, but it's true.
We are all
Yeah.
interdependent.
Yeah,
Some
absolutely.
people don't like to admit it, but we are all
Absolutely.
interdependent.
Absolutely we are.
And it's so hard because sometimes, you know, I used to, years ago when I was younger, you know, you would see somebody or somebody was in a bad mood and you'd be like, you know, judge them. And I thought, you don't know what they're going through.
Right.
And then I really realized, give people grace. I've had somebody wait on me one time in a restaurant and I knew she was off, the waitress. And I thought, should I say something? Because I just knew there was something wrong. And I said to her, are you okay? And then she just burst. Because I could just tell now that I'm doing this
Right.
and seeing people, and I thought, because I'm like, she was real short, like you could tell, like she just, I was like, oh, you don't want, you're like, oh, I'm gonna give her a bad tip. That would be somebody on the other side, but like, she's just terrible.
Yeah, right.
But knowing that she was going through a lot, she actually sat down with me and we talked. And I said to her, I said, listen, you're having a, you know, but they say you should have a mental health day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if you're having a bad day, and she's like, I can't take off work. She couldn't take off work. So it's really, society has made us, you know, we're always fast. We're going to get there, we're going to get in, get out, eat our food. But we got to give people grace and say, you know what, are you okay? Or, you know, just let somebody know that you care about them.
Yep.
You know, and that, you know, we may be strangers, but I can tell something's the matter.
You never
And I
know
can listen.
what somebody's carrying.
Right.
Right. So that's why grace, kindness, that's why it's so important.
It is.
So true.
And I'm so grateful to have all of you here and this conversation and all so many things that you're all doing. You're giving people that outlet. You're giving people a resource. Even just talking to that server in that restaurant. I mean, you can't pay her salary and say it's okay, take a week off, but you can say, I hear you, I see you,
Right.
and
I see.
that can help
That's
her
so
to
important.
get through the shift that she might not want to work but has to because she needs the money, those types of things.
And what's cool about that is she'll remember that this lady, I have no clue who she was.
She was in
Took
hot
a-
pink.
Hot
She was-
pink. Hot pink,
She
right?
doesn't know me.
She took a moment out of her day and just talked to me,
Mhm.
right, with grace, kindness, and love. And she may come across your feed on whether it's LinkedIn or whatever. She may come across your feed and say, "Yep, I remember that
That's
lady." And this lady's
Give
kind
me the
enough.
chills there.
Yeah,
That's her.
so
Yeah,
think
that's
about
her.
it. You
That
never
is cool.
know the impact that you
Yep.
make
That's what it is.
until, you know, you talked about Transformational Thursday. the reason I'm a man of faith, and I'm like, all right, I've always wanted to do it, right? I always wanted to, post consistently until one day I just started. Like it was be consistent, and I wasn't looking for likes, but it was, the goal is, am I making an impact? Is my life making an impact I'm making it in the community, but on social media, am I making an impact?
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere I go now, it's like, Eric, I'm looking forward to that post. Hey, that post that hey, that song that you played or whatever. And it's like, I'm going to continue to do that because someone needed that today.
But isn't that a cool experience when somebody stops you on the street?
Yes.
And it goes back to showing you the importance of that reach,
Yes.
right? Because I've had so many people stop and say, hey, you're the Facebook. I don't even know who they are, right? And that's okay. I think that's okay because that they got something from it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? They got something from it. And I don't know everybody. I'm connected to 6,000 or 7,000 people on social media, on LinkedIn. I don't know them all, right? But I've had an impact on them, and they've had an impact on me,
Well,
right?
like,
So
that's this, right?
yeah,
That's what this is.
yeah.
You know,
that's
that's exactly what it is. You are impacting other people, or they are impacting you. You impacted that woman's life that day.
absolutely.
And I think that you were able to do that because, speaking to the people that you do, Jenny, you were impacted by them, right? And Eric, for people to know that you're the guy that on Thursday I'm going to get something that's going to transform my day, I think people look to those things and recognize them. And just us talking here, the fact that Jenny, you could say, Jim made the Facebook post, and I'm saying, oh, I saw the transformational Thursday. People are looking, and it does make a difference, even if you're not getting that like every time.
I'm so grateful to have, to start doing that podcast. I think to myself, I'm blessed because I would have never met any of you.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been,
Absolutely.
stuck, not really finding my passion or what I wanted to do in life. And, I was a broadcast major, but I was a stay-at-home mom and I worked part-time. And I just, I just
You had a lot of
didn't
time
know.
driving Amish too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that took a little bit away from your study.
I know,
That's
I
okay.
was busy then. But no, I just feel like, God has fulfilled me with this, passion of meeting these new people. My heart is like open. Sometimes you think you're closed off and you go through life and you're like, wow, this is my life. This is where I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be, doing the same job, not loving it and just hating life. No, you can do, I never thought I would be able to do a podcast by myself. YouTube is so great because it shows you everything, but I'm so fortunate because look at these amazing friends I have now,
And that, to me, this whole thing is about connecting the community. And look at all the people, Jim, your example of each person knows at least 100 people.
Sure.
Look at what we've connected, whether it's a guest on your podcast that you've spoken with, or the person watching that is now connected to a resource they never knew existed. Or I didn't even get into, Eric, the coaching you're doing and the reach you're going to have now with Washington and Jefferson.
Yes, W&J, first generation students. So it's the students that were first in their family to go to college. So actually this Saturday coming up, we'll have an opportunity to do a workshop. I'm a Gallup Clifton Strength Finders coach, so we'll walk them through their strengths, which is a personality assessment, but also we become their life coach. Coach them through whether it's, we'll stay with them from now until they graduate. So we get the impact over these next 4 years.
That's
They'll
cool.
have a coach. Cool. It's my wife and I. So
I love that.
I'm noticing, I'll be Uncle Eric and Aunt Julie, hi Julie, and Aunt Julie. And we thought when we mentioned that to them, the kids ate it up. We're like, yes, but because you have an uncle or aunt that you'll talk to, but you won't talk to your parents or friends or something like that.
Absolutely.
It's like, so that's another impact that I can't wait to dive into. We impact high school students, which is another great opportunity, young men, to impact their lives. And I've seen some young men recently that they're saying, thanks, coach. But this is another level.
Isn't that the coolest thing, though?
It is so.
Whenever I coached high school basketball and baseball back in the day, and the kids I coach now are in their 40s and have kids of their own. And So when I'll be at a high school football game or at the Super or whatever, and one of the guys will say, "Hey, coach, how you doing?" And this is that is a cool thing, because as a young man, after dad, coach is the next big deal. And my father was a teacher and a coach. So when I was growing up, in addition to my father, I mean, all the role models and mentors in my life were coaches. They literally were coaches and old school coaches, but so that relationship is something, and whether it's sports or life coaching, whatever the case may be, that is a lifelong relationship. It truly is. It never goes away.
I'll never forget you.
And I'm even thinking, as you're talking about that, you're talking young people maybe 18 years old. And now because they know Uncle Eric, if they start following Uncle Eric, you never know if they're going to land on this video.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, they're now hooking up and listening to Spill With Me, Jenny D,
Absolutely.
and the James Protin podcast.
100%.
And the reach there, again, grows and grows. And that's an audience that others may not otherwise reach,
Mhm.
because, well, I didn't need to know, what 18-year-old is going to say, I need to know the doctor that treats prostate cancer. But you know what? If somebody in their family, they know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and now
If they have a dad, an uncle,
Right.
those types of things. And there's never too much awareness out there. There's never too much sharing. And it's, what I think that's the most valuable piece of whether it's podcasting, whether it's social media, whatever you're doing. See, I like to, somebody asked me if I was a motivational speaker, and I'm not.
I beg
You
to
are?
differ.
I
No,
sir.
no, listen,
I think you both.
Here's
I agree.
and Eric will agree with me. I guarantee he will, because we've had this conversation. I would say I'm an inspirational speaker because I believe that motivation is internal. Inspiration is external. I can inspire you to want to make yourself better, but you have to motivate yourself to do it.
Fair.
Okay? So, but whenever you think about motivation and inspiration, they do go hand in hand, right? So if I can inspire you to start doing something, that's worth its weight in gold. It really is.
And that goes back to the whole point of coaching, right?
Yes.
Or podcast or whatever. It's I know there's greatness inside of all of us. So now I see it. Now I'm going to tap into it. Now I'm going to inspire you to act on act on some type of motivation of the very thing that you're strong in.
Yeah.
So let's go, right? Let's go.
And when you're
Let's
dealing
go.
with young people
Yes.
like you are, like I did in high school, right? So as a coach of coaching athletics in high school, whether it's football or basketball, college coaches have the luxury. So I have a program, right? I run a motion offense in basketball. I run this defense. I can go out and recruit kids that fit that offense. But when every fall, when I go to the first practice and I get another group of kids, I don't know who they are. I have to adjust to them, right? So I guarantee you there are plays in your playbook at Can and Mac that you got to tweak things, because you can't just automatically. It's not plug and play like it is in a college,
You're
right? So you have to be that makes you better at what you do, because you have to be adaptable.
And that's one reason why I became a life coach. It's really, again, identifying that strength that person has, right? And then saying, hey, listen, do you know you have this strength? So you discover that strength. It's like, oh, wait,
Right.
I'm good at something. I'm good at this. So now I'm fan the flame, walk you through the process, and finally you're like, okay, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And now, you crawled, you walked, and now you're running.
I feel like when you're talking about that with so last year, because that's the other thing. You don't, as a podcast, I don't know who's listening. I don't know who I'm impacting that day. So last year, before I started with St. Clair, they're like, well, let's do, I went on and I had a mammogram. And then they were like, we need to see you again because we saw a mass. And I was like, oh my gosh. The whole weekend I thought, that's it. I have breast cancer. So when I went back there, they're like, all right, we need to do an MRI. So I videoed it. I said, listen, I'm back. I got to get my more testing. I didn't want to do it. At first I didn't want to do it because I thought, am I going to break down? But I was like, you know what? There's somebody out there that they need to listen to this.
And that was awesome.
If they're not
That
getting a
was awesome.
mammogram, they need to get.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And I said, listen, guys, I'm here again. Then I went to my MRI. I'm in my gown and everything, and I videoed that. I said, hey guys, I'm here. I'm scared to death. I'm very claustrophobic. Doing this MRI. I told him what it was all about. It was very noisy. It was very tight in there. I just closed my eyes. You're laying like this. But I was like, I need to share this. So St. Clair was kind of like thinking, oh, maybe we'll use her. 6 people that they know went to St. Clair and said they heard it all.
That's
Nice.
And then
that
I started to
impacts.
cry because when I got that email, I said to myself, oh my gosh, like I'm reaching people.
Yep.
You don't know that. Like my one Kelly always tells me, she's like, Jen, you don't know this, but you are an influencer, because I always think the kids are influencers. Like I'm just a mom, wife that's just out there putting some information. But I thought, oh my God, I did influence 6 women. Who knows what other hospitals they went to, but I was like, oh, like that was my aha moment last year.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I realized it was working.
And you could have
Absolutely.
saved, you very well could have saved 6 lives.
Yeah, just 1 out of 8.
And that's awesome.
Women now are-
That is awesome.
Scary.
That is
It's scary.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we're talking a lot, this wasn't planned, but the word of the hour is impact, because I think that's really what we're all doing. And that concept of I didn't know what I was doing when I started this. I just knew, hey, I've discovered some things along the way, and I don't want anybody else to have to search for it. I want to share what I found. So my focus in this has always been resources for the disability community. And just in our conversation today, and I think I told you when I reached out to you, you may not think of yourself as a resource to the disability, but just what you just said there, Jenny,
Mm-hmm.
that 6 women pursued mammograms because of you. And Jim, knowing that you had the right doctor when it came to cancer, and Eric, the impact that you are going to have on these young people that might not go tell mom and dad things, but may come to Uncle Eric and Aunt Julie. That's really the impact. So you're doing this, so I would ask you to consider, knowing that you're already doing it, what would each of you tell an organization, like how can you be more inclusive? How can you make an impact? Eric, I'll start with you. What would you say?
I would say, don't be so closed-minded. And what I mean by that is, sometimes whatever your respective business is or nonprofit is, think outside the box. Think outside. Think of, I guess the I don't even say low-hanging fruit, but there's someone attached to. If someone has some type of disability, then there's the family members that are attached to that, but there are other people attached to that. So think outside the realm of just that person, that family, and think globally. So think outside the box. I would say don't be so closed-minded, because it's not just the person that you're serving. It's more than that.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say communication. And especially in the workforce, any company that you have, any business, mental health is just, I'm not saying it's on the rise, but it's there. Everybody
It is.
goes through it.
It's
Everybody
misunderstood.
It's
It's
misunderstood.
dramatically
So when
misunderstood.
you are in a company, you should definitely have those days where you have someone come in and speak, or you just talk about
Right.
it, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, what are you going through? Because the communication, a lot of when I was working TV stations and stuff like that, you didn't have that time. And if you would even mention the mental health, you'd be fired, because they don't want, back then they thought, well, there's something wrong with you. But now, I'm so glad that we're actually having that open communication about mental health.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say communication.
That's good.
I think that's important. And I would just follow up on what both of you said, and I would just say love. Lead with love, right? So, it's so much easier. It's so much easier. And when you think about, I was thinking about the show we did when you were on my show. The way you spoke about your son and your advocacy for him, and when I ultimately got to meet him, that was one of the most powerful episodes we ever did, because people were moved by that, to understand that this is a human being just like you and me. He may think differently. There might be, there's differences in the way he processes things, and in the autism spectrum. But this is a human being that can and should be and will be a productive member of society. Why shouldn't I love that person? Why shouldn't I love his mom, who loves him so dearly and goes out there and advocates for him so passionately? I want people. If I'm a business owner, you're the people I want involved in my business, right? When you are that passionate and that deeply moved that you do the things you move mountains, I want you doing that for me, right? I want you to be able to come in and articulate and again communicate the message. But you were so powerful, but yet professional and calm and articulate, and just the way you presented that it blew me away. I still think it was one of the most powerful shows we ever did. So it kind of ties both of those things together that my friends here just said. And that starts with being authentic, loving yourself, respecting yourself. And I would want that in every good leader. I think the number one trait of a really good, effective leader is authenticity. Because if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead other people. So you have to love yourself, you have to care for yourself and have that compassion and empathy. Then you can have it for somebody else. You can't love anybody if you don't love yourself. You can't love your wife, your husband. If you don't love yourself first, your marriage is not going to work. You can say I love you all you want, it's not going to work, right?
Christine, we should be highlighting you too. Your impact, the impact
No, I
you're
think
doing.
you had definitely an impact on that show, and that touched me in a lot of ways, and that's the reason I went and jumped into cold water in February up in out at the stadium. That's why I did it. And it was, and I shared with you my first exposure to Special Olympics in Southern California when I was a young man and really didn't understand it. But I had a very dear friend, and he's actually the best man at my wedding. He was blind, and he had some issues, and he did Special Olympics. And this young lady, he ran the mile, and he couldn't see. And this young lady ran a mile backwards, talking to him the entire time so he could follow her voice. Ran. First of all, if you can run a mile backwards, you're superhuman to begin with.
Right.
But that really got my attention, and I think the reason it did is because it was personal to me. Because this was my dear friend I grew up with. His parents, where my dad was his godfather, his parents and my parents were friends. So it personalized it for me, right? I was probably 20 years old. But at the end of the day, that's where we have that impact. You made it personal for me, right? Because you hit me right here. And that's what made it personal for me again. So when I was asked to go, absolutely. I was a little disappointed it wasn't a river like it used to be, but that's neither here nor there.
It's a little cleaner now.
But it was fun. There was camaraderie there. All the people that were there, and it was kind of a zoo for, to be honest, but everybody was there for the same reason, and there was nothing but love. Nothing but love in that
energy
building.
there.
Yeah.
Just everybody was smiling and laughing, and we were so excited because we were doing this for such a great cause.
But that experience for me started right there with you.
Yes.
And it's the same thing for me. I think I was at the printer. I was making copies, and you're like, "Hey, are you gonna jump in the?" Or something about, "Are you gonna jump? Are you gonna do a polar plunge?" And I'm like,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you need, right?
Yeah, I think I even connected you with Kelly Moore, who was the team captain.
Likewise, me as well.
So I had no clue what I was doing. I was just like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, why not,
Yeah,
right?"
she was looking for one more person,
Why
and I
not?
were too. I said, "Hey,
Yeah.
Eric was like, oh, maybe I'll."
Yeah, okay.
See, I mean, and here you are. You
But
may
what's
not have
funny?
thought of yourself as resources to the disability community, but that day you all
when you talk
literally
about-
jumped in.
Yes,
Yeah.
when you talk
Do it
about
again
young
and
people, Kelly said you need to have a dry person, somebody to hold your dry stuff, right? So when you jump out, because it's going to be cold, blah, blah, blah. So absolutely nobody in my family volunteered but my grandson. I had to pay him $20, but that's the end of it.
And lunch.
And lunch. We went to lunch out. So he's 17. And all the way for the week up to it, driving down, there's, "Pat, this is crazy. Why are you doing this? This is just dumb." And he stood there and he watched all that. He's a very quiet kid. He's very cerebral. And afterwards we went to lunch and he said, "That was really cool. That was really cool.
You don't know until you're there.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So,
Really.
you know,
isn't that it, right? We just jump in.
yeah,
Right?
Right.
That's what
do
that's what the impact is about. The impact is I'm not gonna, well, let me
Think about
understand this, let me think about this, and let me weigh the pros and cons, right? Impact is about, listen, I'm gonna jump in, I'm gonna freeze to death, but that's okay. As long as I've made an impact for a great cause, that's where I'm jumping in. So
right.
Right.
so we gotta go. Let's
And
let's
now I
do it.
got you on the hook to do it
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it
Yes.
again.
Well,
Absolutely.
well, we're bringing the Polar Plunge right here to
Yes.
South Point on November 5th. So I early on went to Eric and said, "So you did it. You'll do it again,
Nice,
right?"
Eric.
Probably on the printer.
We'll watch
right?
it. I'll hold the towel for you.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I
But
like
if your
it now.
grandson wants to get involved, bring him on. And
No, I
that's the kind
absolutely
of
will.
thing of making the impact. There was an impact to your grandson that day that he didn't expect, right?
Right.
But then
Right.
he sees the community served and the camaraderie, and it's a good time. In February, it is cold. Maybe it won't be so cold in November. But that's the kind of thing that you all came from different walks of life, doing your own thing, and connected for a cause. And yeah, your team raised nearly $17,000. So yay to the team. But that's what it's all about. It's about connecting with people and making an impact. So I thank you all for what you do every day.
Well, thank you.
It is
Thank you.
meaningful. You've all impacted me.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Impacted us too.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
doing a lot of great things. I appreciate getting the word out there. People need to know. People need to know what somebody goes through when you're raising somebody who has autism.
Absolutely.
I had a woman on, and this was a couple of years ago, and her daughter, she was like, you know what? She's horseback riding. She went skiing. She's like, she's doing it differently than somebody else, but she's doing it all.
Right.
She's making sure that she has all the opportunities that everybody else has.
And I think that goes
I love
back to the concept of inclusion.
Sure.
Just speaking with somebody and understanding that story, you now look at it a different way. And you're like, yeah, why not? Everybody
Right.
can be included in the community and whatever is appropriate for them.
And the impact for me was when I actually had a chance, we were dancing. Before we got into the pool, it was when we were dancing with the athletes.
Yeah,
We had a
yes.
chance to meet your son, and we were
Yes.
we were just down there,
That was so cool.
just
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
dancing right.
I love
for this,
that.
for the special cause.
The whole vibe was just amazing. And it was just
Yeah.
love. That's all it was. It was just love.
All
The
love.
anticipation of it and
Yeah.
everything was just,
Yeah.
and then I had, we had such a great vibe because we had such great people
Yeah.
around us,
Yeah.
supporting us,
And you clearly were behind the shirts because everyone was in your signature pink.
Kelly Moore did it. I was like, hey, I'll wear pink.
Yeah, that was awesome. So,
It turned out great.
and
Looking forward to doing it again.
great.
Yeah, if
Get
I
you
can
signed
help
up.
with publicity and getting the word out there.
Absolutely.
send
We
it
will
to
talk.
me. Send it to me.
Thank you all. I really appreciate you taking the time today. This has been awesome. We could go for hours, but
Yes.
everybody has other obligations.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
And
you for having us. Thank
shout out to Matt.
Yes.
Good job, man.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.